Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hope you're having a good morning. And I hope you have a cup of coffee or some tea or something like that. I'm going to have myself a little sip here before we get started. Hope you have something that you enjoy. Big fan of coffee. So, empathy and systems. Sometimes empathy is a serious effect on the system. I remember a true story. Um, a lady was having severe pains, and Um, that same day, she had seen a American soldier who got brutally dragged behind a car. And when she went in to see the doctor, and you guys have probably had the same thing, on a scale from 1 to 10, where is your pain? Well, she said, wow, that guy that got brutally killed and dragged, I'm going to say his pain was 10. So she said 4, 4, because nowhere near that bad. Said, okay, now here's some drugs. Didn't help. Pain didn't go away. So she contacted her dad, who's out of state, but was also a physician, told him what was going on. And he said, tell him it's a 6 or a 7. She's like, what does that difference does that make? They will prescribe you a different medication because of your response. So she's like, okay. So she went in, told him it's a 6 or a 7. And when they did, they gave her a different medication and it fixed her problem. So the system was relying on a number, but she empathized with past what they normally would expect on that scale. And that's why a lot of people that like systems over empathy point to things like that and say, hey, we got to do something that's deterministic, or else, you know, things can vary like that. But then empathy is so important for getting uh, the true measure of what's going on, because war is bad. And her empathizing with that soldier, that's good, because we need to remember that we do not send our young men and women to fight and die unless it's something that's truly, truly vital, essential. I never worked in, never served in the armed services. Uh, it was post Vietnam. I went in and had a physical done with the Air Force, but I opted not to go because I didn't appreciate the conditions. So instead, I worked for a defense contractor to help create armaments that could be used in war. I know that's not nearly as uh, great as a sacrifice as what our young men and women did. My mother and father were in the war. They were in World War II. My mother served in England, and my father was in the 101st Airborne. And they both had a lot of uh, stories, but the biggest thing was they said they fought so that they could come home because it needed to be done. Empathy is really important. in those situations. The systems can break down. It can be very logical to send 20,000 troops to some foreign country because their government has fractured and we don't want economic impacts from that. But is that really worth those 20,000 lives? I mean, systems would say, well, only a portion of them will be killed in action. That portion is defined by the system. It doesn't speak to the mothers and daughters that have to lose those young men and women and their fathers. So I guess the big thing I'm trying to express is that systems, they'll break when you don't have the right empathy. But like that lady finding that number, it's tough to give a number. It's tough to say whether or not somebody's life is worth giving for the country and for the people back home. But those decisions have to be made. I don't have a solution. I really don't. Nobody does. If they say so, that's their opinion, and it hasn't been proven out. So keep that in mind as you implement your systems, that when you rely on those areas that are empathy, that's a gray area. Not a computer number that you can apply to that that's always going to be right. And to all those serving overseas, serving at home, my son was in the Marines. I toast to you guys. We do appreciate your sacrifice. And we don't want a single one of you to come home giving your life for this country. We want you to come home alive. We want you here with us. But we do appreciate what you do. You guys have a wonderful day. I have one more sip of my good coffee here. I wish you guys a nice morning. We'll talk to you soon.